Question number 17. Factor the equation y equals negative 2x squared minus 12x minus 10. Class, I want you to see something. Take a look at the, oops, you can't actually see this. Sorry, I can't scroll over to it, but I'll let you know. The last few problems you just did, 14 through 16, where it says solve the equation, you factored all of those as well. The only difference is on those, you wrote your answers as just the x values of the x-intercepts. When it tells you to factor, all we're doing here is just converting it to intercept form. You don't have to find the x values anymore. You can just write the actual intercept form quadratic. So it's actually a little less work than solving. Let's take a look at the first one. Factor this equation. Well, let's go ahead and rewrite our equation. Actually, you know what I'll do is let's do this step first. Let's find our GCF. A, B, and C are all on the same side, so we're good to go. Our smallest coefficient is 2. 2 goes into 12. 2 goes into 10. So our GCF is 2. And now our A value is negative. So that means our GCF has to be negative 2. So let's pull out negative 2, and we're left with x squared plus 6x plus 5. Let's check our work. Negative 2 times x squared, negative 2x squared, that's good. Negative 2 times positive 6 is negative 12, and negative 2 times positive 5 is negative 10. Looks like we are good to go. Let's identify A, B, and C, our new A, B, and C values. Let's make our combination table. By the way, A is equal to 1 now. That means we can use our shortcut for this one. All right, A times C is 1 times 5, which is 5. B is 6. Looks like my combo is going to be my first number. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. Looks good. And because A is now 1, we can go right to our solution. In fact, class, why not just write our solution right in the box? Y is equal to, don't forget the GCF. Actually, I shouldn't put an arrow there. That might confuse you. Don't forget the GCF. The GCF has to be in our solution. And then let's use our combination of values. X plus 1 and x plus 5. Factoring is done. Next, on number 18, factor this equation. All right, everything looks like it's in the proper order. Let's find our GCF. Looks like our A value is 1. That means our GCF is 1. And since A is positive, there's nothing to pull out. Positive 1 doesn't do anything when you pull it out. If A was negative, you'd have to factor out a negative 1. But positive 1, you can just leave it. Let's go ahead and write our A, B, and C values now, since you don't have to pull out a GCF. A is 1, B is negative 2, C is negative 15. Let's take a look at our combinations. A times C is 1 times negative 15, which is negative 15. B is negative 2. All right, let's take a look at our combos. 1 and 15, that's not going to work. 2 does not go into 15. 3 goes into 15. It's looking good. 5 minus 3 is positive 2, no good. 3 minus 5 is negative 2, that is good. Got our combo, and since A equals 1, and we don't even have a GCF, we can go right down to here, and we can write our final factored form, x plus 3 times x minus 5. Now class, if you saw this GCF was positive 1 and you wrote a 1 here, that's not going to get you a wrong answer. It's mathematically correct, but remember, when we multiply by 1, we don't have to write it because it doesn't change our final answer. In the previous question, we had a GCF that we pulled out. That had to show up in our final answer. In fact, let's just put a little arrow here. This is our GCF. Goes right there. All right, so number 18 is done. 19 through 25. In the space provided, write whether the function is in standard, intercept, or vertex form. Let's pick these out. I know standard form is not going to have parentheses, so that makes this pretty easy. This is standard form. Bottom one is standard form. And it looks like number 20 is also standard form, no parentheses. Let's take a look at intercept form. Intercept form is going to have parentheses but no exponent of 2. There's no exponent of 2 here. Intercept form normally has 2 sets of parentheses, but not always, but in this case it does. So this is intercept form. Let's see. Here's another one, double parentheses, but also more importantly, there's no square here. There's no exponent of 2. That must be intercept form. And the rest of these don't fit that. Last one is vertex form. Vertex form will always have a binomial that is squared. Or the way you can think about it is, it has a square, but it also has parentheses. So that means this one has to be vertex. And then this one again has a binomial squared. That means it's vertex form. Let's take a look at here real quick on intercept form. I want to show you we've got I was going to write a notation for you here, class, but I think my verbal explanation is good enough. If you want to just do this and show this, and you can show no squared term, so no squared term, and then intercept the same thing. We've got double parentheses, but more importantly, there is no squared term. Okay, all right, that covers your different forms. Last question, number 26. Graph the function f of x equals x plus 4, x minus 2. First thing you want to notice, class, is, just like we just covered, this is intercept form. That means we graph this by using the intercepts. Now it says you must put the coordinates for the x-intercepts in the first and third rows. That means these are going to be your intercepts. This is going to be one intercept. Here is your other intercept. Well, let's find our x-intercepts. Remember how we do this. All we got to do, since we know that y has to be 0 for x-intercepts, we have to figure out what value of x can change the first binomial to 0, or what value of x can change the second binomial to 0. For the first one, subtract 4 from both sides and you get x equals negative 4. For the next one, add 2 to both sides and you get x equals positive 2. Now here's what we do. This 4 can go into the first row. Let me write that again. And we know, class, that x-intercepts always have a y value of 0. The second x-intercept can go here. Sorry, this is supposed to be negative 4. And this is 2 and 0. Now, if you wrote 2 on top and negative 4 on bottom, it makes no difference. It's all going to come out the same on our graph. Let's graph these, by the way. Here is negative 4, 0. And here is 2, 0. Now the only other thing we need is the vertex, which is going to go in the second row. So this is going to be our vertex. How do we find our vertex? We got to find the middle point between the two x-intercepts. And the way we do that mathematically is we take the two x-intercepts, we add them together, and we divide by 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 1. There is the x value of our vertex, negative 1. Now, class, here's another way to do this. Let me erase the word vertex under there so you guys can see that clearly. Here's another way to do it. Count how many spaces there are between the x-intercepts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then go halfway. 1, 2, 3. Make a line right there. Because that is going to be your axis of symmetry, and that is where the vertex has to be. So we've got your axis of symmetry right there at negative 1. Now all we have to do is find the y value of the vertex. You know how to do that. You just plug it into the equation. So we're going to plug in the y value. So here we go. That means f of negative 1 is equal to, everywhere you see an x, change it to negative 1. Now I know I can put this in my calculator, but I can tell you, class, also you can actually do a lot of these intercept problems in your head. -1 plus 4 is +3. And sorry, this wasn't supposed to be x. That was supposed to be -1. I'm supposed to plug in my -1 value. -1 plus 2. -1 plus 2 is, hang on a second here. Sorry, I just realized this. The equation is not +2, it is -2. -1 minus 2 is -3, and 3 times -3 is -9. That means our y value of our vertex is -9. And now we can plot that. -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I notice some of you chose not to draw the parabolas. You didn't get credit for them on your other review. Just because I didn't draw them doesn't mean you don't need to draw them. So I'm going to be checking your work, class. If I see that you didn't draw your parabola, I can assume you didn't listen to the video, and I'm not going to give you points or full points for the review sheet. So for the rest of you who are listening, I want you to go ahead and draw the parabola. I'll start it for you. I'll just put dash lines here to start it. You guys can finish the rest of the parabola on your own, because this question requires that you actually sketch the parabola. So that takes care of number 26. We are done with your retest review sheets. Hope these helped you to look back at these skills and practice them so you are ready for the test.